Welcome to today's episode. I am joined by Zazie Lee, and she is a birth keeper coming all the way from New Orleans. And I am so excited to dive into her journey and hear all about her work as a birth keeper and what that means for health freedom with this new paradigm that we are creating. So, Zazie, thank you so much for joining me today. It's great to connect with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really been wanting to do this myself. I love connecting here with you, and just Zoom and everything has just made this all possible. It's amazing to be connecting so far away.
Absolutely. So tell me, how did you become a birth keeper and what called you into that work?
Um, having a baby, when you go through undisturbed birth, there is a point that we all reach in birth where the um the maiden says, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, you're like reaching for an epidural, or you're like, get me out of here, someone take the lead, like I can't do this. And the maiden can't, she dies and the mother is born. And once I held my baby in my arms, and I realized, after being in the health and holistic health and wanting to take care of my body in the most holistic, natural way possible, so I would never end up in the medical field with a diagnosis, I realized, oh my God, it starts here at birth. Um, and needed to integrate myself further. I really felt the call. I was like, it something about being here with mothers in this transformational process, when the veils are thin and you become this new um, person, like, it is just such a place to be. And I knew right then, like, this is it. I have to reach out into the world this way,
Yeah.
um, rather than being a doctor.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you've always been interested in holistic health. And when did that start for you, that journey of healing your own body?
so when I was 18, I had broken up with a man that I was dating for like 4 years. I've always been a serial monogamist, one relationship after the next. I haven't taken too much rest, but I slept with a man that I knew and I trusted, and we didn't use any protection, and I ended up getting um, herpes, so genital herpes, and it was awful for me. I wasn't even done with high school yet. It was like 2 weeks to the day. I got large, painful blisters. I like couldn't walk. I went to the hospital. I was just like pleading with my OB, like, this like can't be. Maybe it's like the soap I'm using. Like, there's no way.
Hmm.
And he was a new OB, so he got an older OB to come in, and he was like, oh no, this is definitely what you have. And I was just, oh, I crumbled. It just changed my world. And I remember even having to go to the hospital after that because I was in so much pain, and I was just begging with the inspecting doctors, like, please sedate me. I can't take it. And they did. Thank God, because it was the worst. And
Hmm.
so, after that, I just swore to myself, I was like, I'm gonna learn how to cure viruses. Like, this like cannot be my whole life.
Hmm.
Like, I'm gonna be sworn into this. And of course, I was gonna be honest with every other partner, or every partner that I would ever have to be with, because I would
Yeah.
never want somebody to go through what I went through. Um, so that was, changing as well, to be so
Hmm.
vulnerable, so honest with everyone that I liked. And before making any moves with them, I would have to tell them exactly what happened to me. And fortunately, all my partners, they were so sweet, and all of none of them ever rejected me. So I definitely want to say that, like, being honest, it creates such a unique and amazing relationship.
Hmm.
And then after that, a year later, my mom, and she was my parent. I didn't grow up with a dad, and I was always fine with that. But that hit me hard too, you know? I was like, okay, I really need to figure this out. You know, my mom died at 47. Um,
Yeah.
so, and she always knew she was going to die young. My mom was a very spiritual, kind of creepy
Yeah.
woman, but um,
And did they find out what was the cause in the end, or was there any? Yeah.
she had lung cancer. She had been kind of fighting back. You know, we went through Hurricane Katrina here in New Orleans, and we had evacuated to Arkansas for a year. And when we did that, she had gone to a doctor and they had checked up on her, and they told her she had a mass in her lungs. So she had already had her left lung removed and a lobe from her right lung.
Hmm.
And then we came back to New Orleans, and she was just getting sicker and sicker, and going through the medical system trying to figure out like what was going on. She was breaking out in shingles on her side.
Mm.
Um, she was just getting skinnier, and she couldn't eat, and she was still smoking here and there. You know, she wasn't necessarily trying to clean herself up. We certainly didn't have access to the knowledge of like what healing foods we should be involved with in order to heal.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, she just faded away, you know, and
That was
I
really
try.
that was so tough though when you're so young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like really into paganism when I was 18, and I remember like tacking up eucalyptus leaves above her bed, like this will help. It did not,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
I definitely tried.
so that was a big catalyst so for you going through that experience losing your mom so young.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is the wound that created the the opening for the light to shine in, like
Yeah.
I'm going this way.
Hmm.
So all my friends, I am definitely out of all my friends, the person who cares about health, you know, and is obsessed with the body and anatomy, and every class that I've ever taken in college, every step that I've ever made has been in junction with, you know, figuring out how to have the healthiest human body possible. Because I don't believe that Mother Earth didn't mess it up. You know, she
Yeah.
didn't bring us here to
No.
suffer, and
No.
didn't actually get it right until December, because I was on my breastfeeding journey, and you know, I thought I had it all down pat with healthy keto, and I was following this
Hmm.
guy, Dr. Berg, and
Yeah.
I I was shopping at the farmers market, and I love shopping locally. I support all my farmers, and I buy, you know, the best of the best, and I buy halal meat, and you know, that's all locally raised, and you know, they eat grass and all the things, and
Hmm.
I still was not getting better.
Hmm.
My skin was terrible. My tooth was like crumbling in my mouth. I was getting nursing aversions, and I didn't want to stop nursing.
Hmm.
And especially with, I mean, there's something very special about little boys and their mothers. There just is a really deep connection there, and he certainly wasn't ready, but I just had to stop, you know, because
Hmm.
I could feel that this was not progressive for my health, along with whatever I was doing. And I don't know how I came across it, but I did somehow. I found medical, and I was already getting intuition and
Hmm.
messages that I needed to have a more plant-based diet. And
Yeah.
I was already trying to get off the coffee and
Hmm.
stop eating the chocolate because I realized like I had a problem. I was
Yeah.
like eating chocolate every day. I ate chocolate every day after I had Wilder.
Yeah.
um you know, and it was like clearly an addiction, and you know, I was just getting those messages, you
Hmm.
know, like you need to do this, and I mean, I was nervous. I was like, but we eat meat, and
Yeah.
I don't know how much I align with this information, and I need to find something. So I was kind of
Hmm.
grasping at straws, and I was looking at Dr. Sebi's work,
Hmm.
and I resonated a little bit with it, but it wasn't enough, you know. I was still like, every time I look at someone, I'm like, well, you don't look that great, you know, like you say you're this or you do that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you still
Yeah.
got bags under your eyes, and
Yeah.
you're like missing hair, and you just, you know, I can't take health advice from somebody who does not look great.
Yeah.
Um, so, and medical medium fell in my lap. Like I said, I have not figured out how I found him, but I did.
Yeah.
And after all my years of anatomy and physiology, and chemistry, once I read his books, I was like,
Yeah.
this is it. This is a thing. And it was so easy for me to just jump off and
Yeah.
make that change.
Yeah. It's so funny though, because talking to you, I was just like, there's so many similarities between us because like that, I was obsessed with like nutrition and healing and finding all this. Well, my journey kind of started with my own self getting very sick when I was 19. And like that, I was doing like all the healthy organic meats, grass-fed meats, and all, thinking I was doing everything right, but there was still like niggling issues that I had that weren't clearing. And then like that, my mom actually suddenly got sick. She had a massive seizure in 2018 and she was in a coma for 3 months and she passed away. And they were saying, oh, it could be a virus. And so anyway, I ended up finding medical medium during that time when she was in hospital. And I just was like, oh my gosh, like it just blew my mind open.
Yeah.
It made so much sense about my own health, my mom's health, and like that. My mom was very, very spiritual as well, and it was like it really opened me as well. So there's so many similarities between our journeys. And she was just turning 57.
Oh,
Yeah,
my goodness.
yeah,
It's so young. I
yeah.
mean, you know, it's just happening to people younger and younger.
Younger and younger. Yeah,
I have a 10-year-old stepdaughter, my partner's first baby, and she's on this journey with me right now. So I've got her for a whole month to myself, and
nice.
we're big Harry Potter fans. So her other family, we call them her Muggle family.
Yeah, I get
and
it.
uh but I mean, she's gonna see, at some
Hmm.
point, because I was telling her this morning as I was leaving her the Cleanse to Heal book, just so she can get a little information so she can be stronger in this journey. She's not blindly going into it, just
Yeah,
me pulling her in. She's
yeah,
gonna have a knowledge base, and she's so smart. She can read so well. And we're still in the midst of a pandemic,
yeah,
even though it doesn't seem that way. It seems like things are kind of getting back to normal. Um, but if you listen to medical medium, he's like,
yeah,
we're all going to be on cloud nine for the summer, and in the wintertime it's going to take a turn.
yeah.
And I want her to be ready, and I want her to be able to witness her family and also have the tools and the strength to endure.
Mm,
And I
yeah,
want to be there with
absolutely.
her.
Yeah. And that's the thing I think, like a lot of people are thinking, "Oh, it's great now, everything's gone back to normal." But unless you're aware of what's going to happen in the fall, the autumn time when all these viruses are going to be coming at people. And yeah, and if you're not supporting yourself to be able to handle that, then your body is getting all of these symptoms and conditions and mystery diseases that are very, very baffling.
Yeah. It yeah, and it's unfortunate that it takes something like a wound. And the Matrona, we talk about woundology. There's a whole little section in her coursework that is just dedicated to wounds because so many individuals just operate through wounds. I'm operating through a wound. I am. That is my ideology. And she has a whole nother concept of ideas versus ideologies.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's a great idea to take care of yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of people, um, that's not their ideology. Most people just kind of want to live their lives and just be
Yeah,
happy and smoke a cigarette or drink a beer and maybe sometimes drink celery juice. Some of my friends do that. It kind of,
yeah,
I'll just tell them about medical medium and they'll start drinking celery juice, but they'll still smoke and drink. And I'm
yeah,
like, well,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. You're trying. You're trying. Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, it takes a big I suppose unless you've had something that's like shocked you or you've had some type of experience that has made you really see how your health needs to be supported, consciously and actively every day in this world that yeah, otherwise yeah, you're waiting for the wake up call really.
Yep, exactly. And it's disease is a reminder.
Hmm.
It's to kind of shake us awake. And so that's one way I've aligned myself with like chronic illness and you know, I don't I don't get depressed and stay in bed anymore, thinking
Hmm.
about the ills of the world. I
Yeah.
now realize like this is just a reminder,
Yeah,
that there's still something we need to do,
absolutely.
and
Bringing the message into like how birth keeping is such a huge role in this, like, because I think awakening women to their power and creating a new paradigm with birth and raising children consciously, this really starts to change us out of that paradigm where we have been so disconnected from our nature because we've been, we haven't had these initiations that we're meant to have. So yeah,
yeah. So there is something I would love to share with you. So I'll ask you a question. Who holds the charge for the birth when the birth is happening, when you're giving birth? Who holds the charge? And you're welcome to say whoever you feel.
I would say for me, the mother, yeah, the person who is birthing.
Okay. Anyone else?
Um, I suppose the person who is assisting in the birth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, other people, they'll say like the baby. If we're kind of reaching
Mm-hmm.
into other realms, maybe the doctor or
Yeah.
the hospital, God, whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the Matrona, the person that we consider holding the charge is actually the
Oh.
father. And there's another concept to talk about, to understanding why the father holds the charge, and I'll kind of briefly state that.
Mm.
There are the altered states of consciousness, and the mother is not an ordinary reality. Right now, we're somewhere between beta and alpha, and that is the cycles per second your brain is cycling. So it's measured by the amplitude, and so that's your power, and then how many cycles per second it's like looping. So gamma is the fastest. If you've ever done something without thinking, like
Mm-hmm.
rescued a child or something, that's your brain shooting into gamma.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then we have beta, which is the ego, the judgment, the critic, logical thinking, list making, um, very left brain. Your right brain is going to be more alpha, and that's, more creative. Children, from the ages of 7 until they can access, beta, are in alpha. So the Waldorf and the Montessori schools, they really recognize this, that children are in a more artistic place. Um, and alpha is very like, it's a lot of symbolism and creativity and daydreaming, even like with your washing the dishes or gardening. It's very alpha. It's very, lots of senses. Your senses are in it. And alpha is the bridge to the subconscious world into theta. And theta is like REM sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Children, after they're born, at some point after infancy, they start cycling in theta, and children are in theta until about 7.
Mm-hmm.
And theta is also kind of like the aha moment. It's what we call your T cloud instead of your I cloud,
Yeah.
where everything is kind of subconsciously stored. And there's delta, and delta is the slowest brainwave. So beta is about 40 to 60 cycles per second, and delta is going to be as low as zero point 0.5. And delta, if you've ever like meditated or even done certain types of hallucinogenic drugs, or been in an ayahuasca ceremony, and you've just gone way deep into delta, and you come back out of that experience, and you're like, we're all one.
Mm.
Like, I totally get it. It's this huge cosmic picture. It's also, the realm of very deep sleep, the autonomic nervous system, your heartbeat. The gestating fetus is in delta. um, you know, assumably hypersecreting DMT. Um, and so the birthing mother, she will, in her birthing journey, she'll go from beta. I'm so happy. Today's the day. I'm ready to give birth. Oh my goodness. She's making sure everything's in its right place. Maybe she's going into the store. And then she's getting into alpha. She's like, oh man, I'm feeling it, really feeling it. Maybe she'll go lay down for a little while. And I very much did that in my birth. Um, And when you lay down, you get even deeper into it. And then you switch into theta, and you're like, and I was like, I'm getting in the tub. Where's my birthing tub? And then got in that birthing tub, get really deep into theta, and then somewhere we call this the quietude. It's when you hit delta. Your contractions kind of stop. And this is the point in the labor where the cervix is pulled all the way up over by the baby's ears. The cervix is as open, and you'll be as open as you've ever possibly been. And the contractions, they don't completely stop, but they slow down, and they're switching now from the opening, pulling up contractions to the pushing out contractions. And this quietude, some nurses will know this as laboring down. The quietude can last for, maybe a minute, all the way. Some quietudes are like 8 hours long. So women fall asleep. This is your time to rest. This is your delta. This is when your brain is rewiring itself. This is like when you're getting the blueprint to your baby. There is a peak experience happening here. You're hypersecreting DMT, and the father, he's watching. He's witnessing you. He's protecting you. And I remember in my quietude, my midwife, she was maternal midwife, she was like, see your contractions stop. And I was like, and then after that moment is over, your body gives you a natural shot of adrenaline, and you come back up a little bit into theta to birth your baby. And so
That's incredible.
And so the reason why the father holds the charge for the birth is because you are in the altered state of consciousness. And the father, as Wapio has witnessed, is the archangel, because when that mother comes back after that adrenaline shot and the baby is actively, they're birthing themselves, they're totally participating because they also have a shot of adrenaline. She'll be like, come on, the baby's coming, come here. And you'll just see the dad open up his arms, and he'll get right down with his woman, and he will watch and witness her. And he's embodying the archangel, and he is the protector. And testosterone's low, oxytocin is flowing like it's never been flowing before. We're having orgasmic birth, and the father is also born in this moment. And it is so important that fathers know that they hold the charge for the birth, because oftentimes, we'll go into setting, say we have to go to a hospital. Sometimes we just need to, and we have the right to go there. Fathers need to know that they are legally, lawfully, spiritually, familially, culturally, and socially, they hold the charge for the birth. And the hospital, the doctors, they know this. They have to listen to them. It is his legal right to say, I think she said no. She doesn't want you to do that to her. Because oftentimes they won't listen to the woman. They'll say you're talking from your hysterical place, your uterus. She's in birth. They could recognize that, we're altered in a sense to not, maybe advocate for ourselves in the way that they find fitting. Yet, it's the father who needs to speak up and be present for the birth, for the mother. And he has the power to do this. Men can end obstetrical violence in a week if they knew the power that they hold through. And they should no longer and never be casted and relegated to the wall. It's their babies. That is their light that is coming into this world. And they should be the ones receiving it, no one else. And this is one of my favorite, between the altered states of consciousness and the organic role of the father, those are my two favorite concepts in the Matrona. It's one of the things that we just learned so much about. And every time I hear Wapio talk about the organic role of the father, I am just so blown away.
So beautiful. It's so beautiful because it's been so fractured, hasn't it?
It is. I mean, certainly we've had to desexualize birth in so many ways in order to push out the father.
Yeah.
Um, but I always say, if you have the permission to go lock yourself in a room to conceive, I mean, your body's not thinking you're gonna oh, we'll let you conceive and we'll definitely know that you're gonna have someone manage your birth so you can birth this baby.
Hmm.
We hold the template, and the father, he's more powerful than he is because whatever happens, get it, and that's not to say he's like a slave or something, but this is his family,
Hmm.
and if she needs a glass of water or for someone to call 911, he's gonna do it. He
Yeah.
will carry you out of that room because nobody is more invested than this man in
Yeah.
this family, you
Yeah.
know? The midwife, your friend, your mother, they're not taking this baby home.
So that's a huge part of your work is really to bring that education and to reconnect people to that truth.
Yes, I want people to be their own birth keepers. That's really kind of more what my program is about,
Yeah.
is helping women and men feel empowered by their births, awakening the creator within. You're creating life. And
Hmm.
yes, you should, if you want a hospital or a home birth with a nurse on staff or whoever, you should be able to have that. And everyone should respect you and leave you alone. And
Hmm.
if you need something, ask for it. Father will ask you, or maybe the birth keeper, the doula, um, we can be savvy enough to hold space for women and families without interfering, without having to touch them. Because every time you touch a mother, you're bringing her out of her beta.
That's so
You're
interesting,
bringing,
isn't it? Yeah, and we don't have that, like that's not common knowledge that you go into those brain states that you're meant to be undisturbed.
that's right. And if you read, his name, Michelle O'Donnell's work,
Mhm.
he really, without saying the brainwave states in the way that I talk about, he really paints the picture that complications and especially hemorrhages are
Mhm.
really a result of interfering with the altered states of consciousness because your body was not meant to bleed,
Mhm.
you know? And
Mhm.
if you look at the anatomy and physiology, you'll see that the placenta where it was, I mean, it shrinks to a tiny little space. Um, so every time though that you come into a mother's field of view, you're pulling her away from this. You're giving her more adrenaline.
Mhm.
And not the helpful kind of adrenaline, the stress adrenaline. You're
Yeah.
lowering her oxytocin. Um, you're creating trauma.
Mhm.
Um, and this is why women bleed. He very much acknowledges this. Somebody will ask him, because he has an undisturbed hospital, basically. He doesn't have any medicine at his hospital. And everyone always asks him, like, what do you do if there's a hemorrhage? And he's like, I tell whoever's in the room to stop. Even the mother, mothers are very also, we'll undo ourselves too, because we've been imprinted
Yeah.
from society that birth is dangerous.
Mhm.
And, really the best way is to kind of wrap the mother up in a sheet. This is what the old midwives would do. So she can kind of harness back in her energy. And the water is very soothing. He was a big, big fan of water birth for this reason, that it would really help ground down and make you calmer,
Mhm.
um, bring you back to center. Um, but most often, really, the complications, and especially, I mean, we know from medical medium that actually preeclampsia is Epstein-Barr virus.
Yeah.
And when does Epstein-Barr virus like to come out? When you're stressed.
Oh,
And what
yeah.
does stress do? It lowers your immune system.
Yeah.
And Wapio always says she's attended, I think, 400 or 500 births, and she's only seen one hemorrhage and one case of fetal distress ever.
Mhm.
Her 40 years of midwifery. And she worked in like the preeclampsia belt, around all these really high risk women,
Mhm.
supposedly. And she always says, the reason why I don't think I've seen a lot of complications is because I'm a great caregiver.
Mhm.
I don't stress my families out. I don't test them. I don't, I just listen. I open my heart and my soul to these people, and no one is more important to me than this family on the day of birth.
Mm,
So,
that's beautiful. And that's also a very important point about the preeclampsia, because that will be obviously a huge concern for those who are birthing and doing that work. For me anyway, that's what I'm a nutrition coach, and that's a huge part of my practice now, is supporting women before they get pregnant, to be able to do the work on their body to eliminate and clear down any buildup of viruses, Epstein-Barr, strep, all the different viruses that our bodies have been affected by in the modern world at this current time. So I think that's a really important point for people to hear that.
it's going to be amazing to give birth to these children who are going to be more free of these toxins, these viruses.
Yeah.
Have you heard of little star seeds?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, we're bringing in the star seeds. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely feel connected to the star seed energy myself. And I just see, these babies coming into the world, just different,
Hmm.
more energy. And
Absolutely. Bringing
I,
in a whole new paradigm, though, isn't it? Out of that, where I suppose we came in and we've had to go through, like, learning through a lot of pain and suffering, whereas I think for these children coming in, it's like a different way of learning and a different way of exploring life and learning through joy and support, and, as you said, that level of freedom in them, that they haven't been imprinted by that level of toxicity or trauma that
yes,
is very hard to navigate when you come into the physical world.
yes, my son, he is, he is something. And he is so just intuitive. And, I don't have a lot of experience with children. I had experience with Alexi, my stepdaughter, but I met her when she was and she's never been like an accurate representation of children. Just because of how quiet and sweet and calm she is, and her love for books. She'll just read for hours uninterrupted and be by herself. So I really had this idea that children were difficult, especially in the beginning because there was this communication barrier, and it just when you look at society and our culture, you think that like, oh, the first few years are going to be the hardest. It's going
Hmm.
to really tax you the most. Diapers, knew this, knew that. You're going to be restricted. And
Hmm.
wow, have I found that to not be true? I
Yeah.
did elimination communication with my son. He's fully potty trained, has been since he's 14 months old.
14 months. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Wow.
Now, I still put the nighttime diapers on him
Yeah.
because I'm a little lazy about getting up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But I do have another friend that does EC, and she just slept her son naked, and he doesn't wet the bed.
Yeah.
Um, and Wilder has tried to wake me up, like, hey, I need to use the
You're just
bathroom.
like, get back to bed.
Yeah, I'm really terrible. I really
Yeah.
love my sleep too much,
Yeah.
but he, and this was last year when the pandemic hit. So we were doing EC, but once the pandemic hit, I was like, well, I'm home, so we're just going to take all the clothes off anyway. And that's a
Yeah.
big part of it, part of the body awareness.
Hmm.
And
And sorry, for those who are listening who don't know what that is, what is elimination? What do you call it? Elimination communication.
mm,
What is that?
yeah. So from the time babies are born, they very they're very simple. Yes, they want to eat, but they also want to use the bathroom and go to sleep. And so babies don't just cry for sleep or hunger. They also cry to cue you, like, hey, something's happening in my body. I'm not sure what's happening. And I think I'm about to wet you. And they will really let you know. And a lot of people see this even with diapers, like, oh, she's fussy because she used the bathroom in her diaper. But just like animals, any mammalian animal, um, the litter does not want to soil its bed. And so oftentimes the mother will, help her litter, but you see this even with puppies, like say you take home a 6-week-old puppy. Most puppies really won't use their bed
Hmm.
for a potty, either will babies. And this is why it's so difficult to potty train 2-year-olds because we have spent 2 years undoing their their natural ways. We've taught them to eliminate themselves.
Mhm.
And I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but yes, we have taught our children it is okay to soil your bed instead of not, because that's what they came into the world understanding intuitively. That
Mm.
it's, I shouldn't soil myself and I shouldn't soil my mother. Um, and this is why you have a huge fight with toddlers, because you're getting into this part, where they're wanting to be more independent
Yeah.
and they don't want as much help, and it's a real struggle. And oftentimes, I mean, I see 3, 4, 5-year-olds still in diapers from this,
Mhm.
and it's a shame.
Yeah. So what do you do? You just take off? You don't put on anything? How does it work exactly?
So I'll have to think of her name, but there's a few great PC women out there that have a lot of YouTube videos that are helpful.
Mhm.
I cannot remember the woman's name that I followed right now, but she's on YouTube. She's really great. And yeah, I didn't do it the first 2 weeks. I was pretty exhausted from birth.
Mhm.
I definitely think next baby, that baby's just gonna be naked.
The whole time.
Yeah, because you can see, and I mean, and Wilder was pretty naked in the beginning there because he was just a little furnace. He really was so warm all the time. And I mean, he was born in November. And New Orleans, it really doesn't get cold until late December, January anyway, but even still, he was just so warm all the time. Um, but yeah, you just observe. And so when they wake up, just like us, they usually have to use the bathroom.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, we tend to put them right on the breast. We don't even see if they have to burp, and which oftentimes, I'll talk a little bit about Philippa Murphy's work, Baby Cues. She talks about really the need to help the wind come out of the body, because our babies are not moving
Mhm.
and their muscles are not contracting the digestive system in the way that it needs to be in order to help move the gas down. So oftentimes air will sit here at the top of the throat, and
Mhm.
that's actually a biological phenomenon that's helpful for babies starting to goo and gah, and they'll tongue poke, and it'll help kind of masticate or help their cheeks do mastication. Um, so it's actually kind of important, especially when you have your baby, to realize that your baby has a biological natural rhythm. So after you give birth, at some point, your baby will want to feed, yes.
Mhm.
Um, let them eat to their full, and that's that natural little cutoff where they get that milk drunk, and then they fall into that nice, deep, deep sleep. Um, do not wake your baby. Let that baby sleep. Do not feel pressured into having to wake your baby up 6, 8 hours in, because this is the longest they're going to sleep for a while. All
Mhm.
right, they're going to be waking up every 4 hours to eat, and you want this time to recover, to be drunk in your power. I certainly know I did not go to sleep after birth. My partner did. He was exhausted. I stayed up all night staring at that baby, and I was actually instructed, and I know now, to wake my baby up. And I think it's important that we don't. I think it's important that we trust the innate wisdom of the newborn, and that they know how to manage their bodies.
Mhm.
And the body is kind of calibrating itself. It's coming into a rhythm. And so when they're ready, they'll wake up. And I mean, obviously, if you think there's a problem,
Mm.
you can use your intuition, wake your baby up. I'm not saying,
Yeah.
you know, don't use your intuition always. However, in the normal healthy scenario, let's trust our babies.
Mhm.
And when they wake up, listen, because you're still in theta.
Mhm.
So is your baby. And you have a connection, and your baby's going to tell you what it needs. Listen, does your baby need to use the bathroom? Are they still tired? Did they have a good birth?
Mm.
Talk to them. Don't just pop them on the boob,
Mhm.
you know? Give them a moment. See what they need. And they'll tell you. And there's a little rhythm. So either they'll use the bathroom or they won't.
Mhm.
They'll eat. They'll be only a little bit because it's just colostrum in the beginning there. And as the baby grows, as your milk comes in, the stomach grows and the need for milk increases slowly but surely. And Mother Nature has given them that biological milk drunk to stop them from overfeeding themselves, because we can overfeed babies. And this is what colic and reflux is the overfeeding, or what Latham Murphy calls digestive overload. And that is the screaming, inconsolable newborn for the first 4 months.
Mm.
And that's what happened to me, and that's why I found her work, because, she says for about 2 weeks, newborns are really kind of recovering. And at about 2 weeks, 6 p.m. on the nose, my baby would just start screaming, uncontrollably inconsolable, until he passed out from exhaustion. And I couldn't figure it out. And there was no way that I was going to be fooled into thinking this was it. I had to suddenly just accept my baby for the way that he is now. And I mean, I was going to throw him. There's a real thing that happens, and it's not talked about enough, because it's a shame. It really is, and it makes mothers feel horrible. But when your baby screams at you like that, all you want to do is get rid of them. And sometimes it's through violence, and it makes you feel so angry. And again, Mother Nature didn't do this. There's no way that Mother Nature would do this to us. So I found Felipe Murphy online, and she says, and she's a little more strict in her book, where she says that newborns really need to feed every 4 hours. What I really like to tell my families is that, again, watch for this cycle in the beginning. Let them talk to you, feed them, burp them. They'll play for about 30 minutes, and then they're going to fall back into that deep sleep. And that deep sleep is so important and so nourishing, and it's going to set up a rhythm for your baby. And they're going to wake up about every 3 to 4 hours to repeat this cycle. And as they get older, the cycle will expand, the awake time will lengthen, but the sleep time will be about the same. It will be about 3.5 to 4 hours. And if you nurture the cycle, you will have a baby that naps. You will have a baby that is predictable. You will know your baby, and they will develop a rhythm. Babies really like schedules. They do. They love rhythm, and they love it all the way. I mean, I'm only experienced up to 2.6 months, so my baby still loves to know what the schedule is. He's still very predictable, and he likes to be in charge a lot. But what I think is more important than, because I spent a lot of time trying to fit myself into that 4-hour box, so I didn't have this screaming baby. And what I noticed from telling women about these cycles, I think knowing that there is a cycle there puts you back in your power and helps you communicate with your baby. So even if maybe your baby wakes up for 3 hours, maybe that's their cycle. Maybe that's their rhythm. And from the women that I've helped with this, they haven't reported back to me with the same experience that I had with my new.
Yeah, that's amazing. So empowering, the work that you're doing. I absolutely love it. And so what would you say is your message on health freedom and your vision for the future?
Oh, gotta get it together. We need clean water, food, shelter, the education to have those three, and the healthcare that comes with it. That's the way. And we are more intelligent than we know. I love Medical Medium, because in one of his lives, he doesn't say it exactly like this, but he's like, "You think humans are evolving? Do you?" And he kind of goes on about like, yeah, okay, we evolved from like whatever chimpanzee ancestor into this, and then we just stopped evolving, right? Like, we just stopped.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so funny, because he's right, like I think there's more meaning to why we're here. Maybe wherever we came from, we do have a specialness about us. And the moment that we take a hold and we become sovereign beings, when we take back our power, I mean, the world is going to flip.
Mhm.
We're going to have this paradise land. And I mean, we are living in the paradise. I don't think heaven is, you know, kind of what the Catholics and Christians make it out to be. Like, that's the paradise land, but it's
Mhm.
just, we're just light beings there, not in a physical body. I think we're here to manifest the physical form of heaven. I
Mhm.
really do. And it's possible. We have all the solutions to every problem. I
Mhm.
know that there are plants and technologies to clean up the radiation in, the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
There are ways to not have plastic. There's biodiesel fuels. We have every solution that we need. People just need to wake up.
Mhm.
You've got to wake up. And the disease is the constant and heavy reminder you're not awake. The
Yeah.
suffering, that's your reminder, and
Yeah.
that's what I think is going to happen. We're going to suffer until we cannot suffer any longer. And
Yeah.
people are going to just cling to, like, I've got to find another way, just like me, just like you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's something else. And
Mhm.
people are not going to stand for it anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Oh, am I waiting?
Oh, so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And where can everybody find and connect with you?
So I'm on Instagram. My handle is undisturbed um, underscore birthkeeper. And that's where to find me right now. I'm gonna update my website, zazisbodywork.com. It just has my massage therapy stuff on there right now. Um, I just have so much to expand into. I realize now I don't have to be a naturopathic doctor to be a full spectrum holistic healer.
Yeah.
I can offer hands-on healing uh, for people that are passing away or people who are just dealing with general everyday pain. I now have the medical medium information.
Yeah.
I am a birth keeper and I'm also a death keeper,
Yeah.
and death keeping is just as important as birth keeping. You are being born back to where you came from. And the witnessing and the peak experience that happens in death is just as powerful as birth. We have three main things:
Yeah.
birth, sex, and death. Everything else in between absolutely can produce a peak experience, but those are your main ones. Those are the life transformational.
Yeah.
Instagram's my best find right now. Find
Yeah.
me there.
Well, I love your stuff and I love your story. So I highly recommend everyone check you out and connect. And yeah, it's so good to be connected. And thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was amazing.